This conversation going now, how are people, the politicians as well as the experts really viewing this budget, a maiden rail budget that has been put forward? Joining us now is Salman Soz from Congress. We've also got Gaurav Bhatia. He is the National President for the Legal Cell for SP, along with Jai Panda, MP for Lok Sabha from BJP, who's joining us. Mr. Salman Soz, I'm going to come to you first. Your party seems to be criticizing the budget, railway budget already. I mean, if you really talk about tall promises being made, they are not there. The BJP with this budget seems to be extremely realistic about first getting the money in place before going ahead with any development. What is the reason that Congress seems to be so skeptical and critical about this?
You know, this is a talk and awe budget. The BJP is supposed to talk, and we're supposed to be in awe of what they talk about. You know, if you look at some of the things that they've talked about, for example, we're going to computerize things. We're going to have Wi-Fi. We're going to have this e-ticketing and all that. A lot of these things, a lot of the initiatives have already been, they're already been seeded. They're being implemented, and now, of course, the BJP comes in and says, oh, we're going to do them. That's one part of it. The second part is the vision part. You know, I'm not sure what vision there is, but I think there is some speed for love. Love for speed. Speedy trains, bullet trains. We're going to have the, you know, we're going to run after high-speed rail, regardless of whether that's a misplaced priority or not, regardless of whether there's any serious effort of studying what high-speed rail is all about around the world. In China, which I'm sure Prime Minister Modi loves to perhaps read about. So I think that's the other part of it. The third part is...
No, but Salman Soz, don't you think that this is a good beginning? Your criticism seems to be hinging on two things. A, that BJP you think is taking credit for a lot of things that the UPA first initiated, and B, that you think that it's not practical. But at least it's a start, isn't it, Jai Panda? And that's where I want to get you in. Yes, a lot of these schemes may seem very ambitious, but at least there is ambition. They're not just happy with status quo. So isn't that a good start?
I thought. I'm sorry. I mean, I was coming to my final point, which is about PPP. As in, you know, it seems like PPP is a panacea for everything that the railways faces. They talk about PPP as if that's something which has an unblemished record, not just in India, not just in Indian Railways, which, by the way, has attempted PPP models in different parts of its operations. But, you know, PPP has a checkered history around the world. So the way BJP has presented PPP models is as if, oh, this is going to be an unqualified success. And all the money is going to come through there and through FDI in a very challenging global environment. So we have to be careful.
Okay, fair enough.
They have to be
fair enough, but Jai Panda,
we should be conservative.
Jai Panda, can you come in at this point? Do you think that it's at least a good beginning? And let's see how far some of these ambitious schemes are implemented.
I have mixed feelings about this railway budget. On the one hand, I think we all understand that the railways is in a big mess. It's in a financial mess, and it needs to be pulled out of that mess. And the Prime Minister has articulated his vision over the past few weeks about the tough steps that they need to take, and as a result of that, we've seen a fare hike and so on and so forth. But even going by the vision that they have spelled out, I don't think it has been implemented uniformly across the country. Now, one of the reasons I have mixed feelings is my constituency has a project, the Haridaspur Paradip Railway Project, which has got 187 crores. It's a good thing. But, you know, the definition they have given is that they want to focus on improving profitability of the railways and also to complete long ongoing projects. And so from the point of view of the Biju Janata Dal and Odisha, we actually beat that criteria. The railways has something like 14,000 crores annual earnings from Odisha because of a lot of freight movement, a lot of minerals being moved. But large parts of the state till today don't have rail connectivity. We have projects going on for 20-30 years, yet they have not been given the boost to complete quickly, which has been defined in their vision. So that's why we have mixed feelings. You know, on the one hand, I would welcome the massive investment that they are making in the northeast, even though there is no profit to the railways, because it's in the national interest.
Right.
So similarly, where you do have profit opportunities, but also the option of connecting to Adivasi districts where you have left-wing extremism, but they have been left out. So I think the vision is rational, but implementation is inconsistent.
Right, gentlemen, stay with us. We are quickly going to take a break, but there's lots more on this show. The government seems to have scrapped the goodie culture this time. Is that really going to be the trend from here on? Well, Mamata Banerjee doesn't seem to be happy.
Presented by Aquaguard, Shuddh se badhkar sehatmand pani. In association with Apollo Tyres, go the distance. RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, growing legacies. State Bank of India, banker to every Indian. SMC, money wise, be wise. Ultratech Cement, the engineer's choice.
What India wants from the Modi government.
I'm Pranidhi. I work with Mahindra Holidays. Roti kapda makan, like we say. So home loans again, if the rates could be lowered so that people like us can also think of having a home. I will be watching Times Now on Budget Day Live. They would be the first ones to update. Less of masala in Times Now and more of content.
Everyone deserves a piece of the super budget. Get yours only on Times Now.
Presented by Aquaguard, Shuddh se badhkar sehatmand pani. In association with Apollo Tyres, go the distance. RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, growing legacies. State Bank of India, banker to every Indian. SMC, money wise, be wise. Ultratech Cement, the engineer's choice.
एक्वागार्ड का सेहतमंद पानी,
क्योंकि आपके घर आने वाले पानी में से सिर्फ एक्वागार्ड की मिनरल गार्ड टेक्नोलॉजी नेचुरल मिनरल्स बचाए और उसे शुद्ध से बढ़कर सेहतमंद बनाए। कॉल करें आज ही 09339883333।
हे टाइगर, इस वेकेशन में कहाँ जाएंगे? अफ्रीकन सफारी, सी वर्ल्ड या ऑस्ट्रेलिया? अच्छा लगता ना जब आपके पास चॉइस हो। इसी तरह इन्वेस्टमेंट्स की चॉइस है एसएमसी के पास। शेयर्स खरीदने हो या म्यूचुअल फंड्स, इंश्योरेंस हो या फिर गोल्ड, एसएमसी इंडियाज अवार्ड विनिंग ब्रोकर जो रखे आपके निवेश का ख्याल। एसएमसी, मनी वाइज बी वाइज।
मुझे बनाने का शौक था बचपन से, और बड़े भैया को गिराने का। ताकत नहीं थी ना, डरता था। आज 20 साल बाद मैं इंजीनियर हूँ। अब मेरी कोई भी बनाई हुई चीज किसी से नहीं डरती, क्योंकि आज मेरे पास ताकत है।
अल्ट्राटेक सीमेंट, द इंजीनियर्स चॉइस, क्योंकि इस सीमेंट में जान है।
कैंट आरओ से पानी होता है पूरा प्योर।
कैंट के डबल प्योरिफिकेशन आरओ और यूवी से घुली हुई अशुद्धियां भी निकले।
कैंट देता है सबसे शुद्ध पानी।
So does this railway budget spell goodbye to populism? If you take just a quick look at the budgets presented by Mamata Banerjee 3 years ago, it shows how she rolled out the goodies and made, in fact, Lalu Yadav even look less generous.
Well, Gowda definitely staying away from those excesses and not focusing really on giving out those goodies. It's the long-term plan there.
his style of working has seen many firsts. And adding to the list is the first rail budget of his government. The mantra is to keep it minimal. Lesser sops, less populism.
I also can get claps from this August House by announcing many new projects, but that would be rendering injustice to the struggling organization. I would like to take steps throughout the year by setting the things in order.
Gowda's budget is a far cry from Mamata's goodie bag, who promised new trains twice than that of Gowda's plan, and predictably slammed his budget for being lean on populism. Another of Gowda's predecessor, Lalu Prasad, who was credited with turning around the railways, was less extravagant than Mamata but stuck to his promise of new surveys and lines at least twice than that of Gowda.
तो ये बिल्कुल जो जब बीजेपी आती है, ये बड़े लोगों की पार्टी है, कॉर्पोरेट हाउस की पार्टी है, घरों की पार्टी है। जिन लोगों ने इसमें इन्वेस्ट किया है इनको इलेक्शन में जिताने के लिए, अब ये निजी हाथों में जा रहा है, रेलवे पक्का जा रहा है।
The opposition targeting the Modi government over the trimming of SOPs in the rail budget.
Increasing capex in the rail sector, financing it. There are innovative ways that you can raise finances. There's a 14% hike on one hand on the consumer, but at the other hand, there are no new trains being introduced, nor any new rail lines being introduced.
But the Modi government not bowing down to the pressure, but going ahead with practicality over populism. Bureau Report Times Now.
And also joining our debate now is Jai Mruk from Mumbai, as is Aman Sinha. He's from the BJP, the spokesperson. He's joining us from our Delhi studio. But Jai, it is quite surprising that the BJP has stuck to its bold line. You know, after the railway fare hike, one thought that they would indulge in a bit of populism, but they've really stuck to their ground, even possibly at the cost of some electoral prospects.
Yeah, actually it's very interesting. I mean, I just want to digress for half a minute and take you through an anecdote, which I think, if memory serves me right, I remember well. You talked about Ms. Banerjee doling out goodies. I think it was the 2001 railway budget. She was reading her speech, and one of the members of parliament, perhaps from the south, protested that there was no train to Nizamuddin. So she actually added the train in her budget speech at that point of time. Then I think that train was Coimbatore Nizamuddin Kongu Express. So you know, that's the sort of way we've been adding trains in the past. You know, this was the one she added it live during her budget speech. Now let's look at the situation of Mr. Gowda. He starts by saying that the operating ratio is around 93.5%, close to 94. He concludes his speech by saying, you know what, next year it's just going to be 1% lower, 92.5. Means if I'm tight for resources this year, I'm going to be tight for resources next year as well. So all that he can do is focus on growing the productive capacity of the network he has, and therefore they've actually stuck to that line. We can only grow the productive capacity. We have no room to do anything else. So yes, the fare hike has been administered. Maybe you have inadvertent fare hikes later on, but yet we cannot give you anything new, anything more in terms of goodies.
Right. Aman, comment on this. This is how we're interpreting it. They're not really going to be giving out goodies to any political party, to any specific state. Is that going to be the trend? Are we interpreting it right?
Tanvi, the rail budget 2014 aptly reflects the focus and vision of Modi government with respect to railways. And you know, we consider railways as lifeline of the country. And we do not intend to use it as a political tool. We want to see railways as engine of our economic progress, economic growth, and an engine for generating new employment in the country. And I think the budget is very much on tracks, you know, the number of measures which have been, you know, number of announcements with regard to safety, with regard to passenger convenience have been announced. They are remarkable and they are path breaking. And you know, let me also share with you that, you know, in past 10 years, out of 99 projects which were announced, only one got not even operationalized, that was initiated. So there is no point in, you know, announcing something just for the heck of announcing it, as you know, our you know, reporter from Mumbai was sharing with us. You know, we have to get the projects, you know, delivered on ground, and that is what our, you know, second priority is, you know, after safety and passenger convenience, to get delivery of these projects, to prioritize them and to raise, you know, resources for that purpose, and you know, get them delivered at the earliest possible.
Okay, but Jai Panda, you know, a lot of people that we've been speaking to, they've been happy with some of the measures that have been spoken about today. But the underlying sentiment is it a lot of promises? How much of it will be feasible? You're talking about high-speed trains, you're talking about a bullet train. Do resources and practical issues like, you know, how are you going to make all the unmanned crossings manned? Are these going to be roadblocks?
Well, the fact is, if you can use a cliche, they have bitten the bullet and taken certain steps which are tough. As you've been pointing out, they have been eschewing populism and focusing on setting right the finances of the railways. Now, having said that, if the thrust on technology, if the thrust on passenger services, if the thrust on cleanliness and safety does not pay off, then by this time next year there will be immense resentment, because you've had a major hike in passenger fare. and you are actually announcing that you're not going to be distributing goodies all around the country. You're going to focus on completing the projects which are underway, and if that does not speed up, if that does not complete, then obviously the strategy will fail. So I think the immense focus needs to be kept on completing these projects. And since they are reaching out for different ways of financing, one of the ways they ought to look at is partnership with state governments. One of the reasons I have mixed feelings is a very major project in Orissa has been hung for 20 years, the Khordha-Balangir project, where the state government is offering to fund half of the cost. And still that has not been taken up this time. I think they need to be more proactive on such ideas.
Need to focus on finishing some of their projects. Maybe they should have scrapped some of those projects, considering the huge pipeline that is already there. We're going to continue this conversation. All of you please stay with us. Jai Panda, Salman Soz, we've also got Jai Murg and Aman Sinhan with us. Stay with us. We'll be just back.